Her strength is in creating and implementing effective marketing strategies that bring brand awareness and drive product users via paid and owned marketing channels. Working as a leader in Web3 and previously running her own business in Web2, Kseniia merges marketing tactics with business strategy acumen, leadership and team management skills, and a creative approach to branding. For the past few years, she has been a chief marketing officer and marketing and strategy advisor for upcoming and established blockchain projects. Kseniia has mentored 2 cohorts of startups of Plug and Play Accelerator, 12 startups in North Africa and 20 startups in Central Asia, and previously 12 startups at TechStart. So she has a lot of experience, and she's also passionate about traveling, sports, and psychology. So Kseniia, I want to welcome you, and I'd love to know if there's anything that you would like to add. I know in the Web3 space is moving so fast, people are always starting new projects, doing new things. If there's anything you'd like to add or share with our participants today.
Thanks for a nice intro. And I'm very impressed to see how many people are now on the call, especially counting that we're in the bearish market. It's really amazing to see that people are here actually coming for the technology and for the industry itself. So excited to share what I know about the industry.
Wonderful. Yeah. And we have a live broadcast also. So a lot of our students are probably watching on YouTube right now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much for taking time. We know you have a busy schedule and lots going on. And just want to welcome you and thank you again for sharing some of your knowledge and experience. And what I was thinking is as you go through the presentation, everyone listening today, if you have questions, please just type them in the chat window. And Kseniia, do you prefer to answer kind of questions as you go, or to do a talk and then answer them at the end?
That's a really good question. I think we can answer questions as we go.
Okay.
Whatever is more convenient for the audience, I can do both.
Okay, awesome. I'll try to do like a quick kind of like if they need more explanation or have a question, but also keep the flow of the talk going.
Sure. Sounds really
Wonderful.
Good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sharing?
Yes.
For a second. Let me just share my screen. So today I'm gonna discuss with you the blockchain ecosystem and give my view of the structure, shareholders, and basically what I try to do is to provide a holistic view of the entire blockchain as an industry, because I think it must be very complicated for anyone who's coming to the Web3 space now, as it just grew massively even in the last few years. So first of all, what is the blockchain ecosystem? Surprisingly, it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum networks, as majority of people think, and it's not even connected to financial applications only. So blockchain ecosystem is the entire industry now based on the blockchain. It can be anything from companies specializing on finance, insurance, art, digital identity, gaming, healthcare, and the list goes on and on. So here in the blockchain ecosystem, you will see multiple types of companies and multiple ecosystem players and stakeholders, which I will try to give you a more overview during my presentation. First of all, what you need to know is that the blockchain ecosystem is divided into centralized part and decentralized part. So centralized part will be projects run by single stakeholder. I a bit messed up the presentation. So centralized is projects run by single stakeholders. So it's going to be a single company or a single group of users, and they serve as a middleman or third party that helps to conduct services and takes fee for that. In the decentralized way, it's completely different. So here, the project will be run by multiple stakeholders, and usually it's done by governance and DAO system. So there's no one central power whatsoever to control any decisions. Also, decentralized projects usually conduct peer-to-peer services. In the current state of the crypto market, there is no pure decentralization, so everybody thriving to reach decentralization. But usually how it works, A group of people starts the decentralized project. Then when it's nearly ready and at a certain stage of the growth, they're just giving it to the community to vote and form the decisions and form the future of the company and its products.
I'd like to ask everyone, please mute,
Yeah.
please mute yourself if you're not talking.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as I mentioned before, the blockchain ecosystem grew immensely in the past couple of years. So here I thought that this will be useful for you to get the understanding of the industry, just to know how everything was evolving and major milestones that the industry was going through. Everything started obviously from Bitcoin, which was introduced to the public in 2009. Then Bitcoin started growing in popularity, and the first Bitcoin exchange, which was the centralized exchange, emerged. It was called Bitcoin Market. Then Bitcoin was on its own journey of ups and downs, but basically the public, the early adopters, started seeing immense potential in the industry. And in around 2014, MakerDAO came up with the idea of a stablecoin called DAI, which was the first stablecoin backed to US dollar in the ratio of 1:1. Then in 2015, Vitalik Buterin introduced Ethereum network as a concept. And this is known kind of as the start of the whole decentralized finance movement, and in general, the huge turn in the decentralized industry. Because Ethereum serves as the base for a lot of projects. Also in 2015, a bit later in the year, the first NFT was introduced on Ethereum blockchain. In 2017, there was maybe not the first, but the most popular game on blockchain, which was called CryptoKitties. And since then, it's known as the start of the play to earn gaming. Also in 2018, AVE introduced its protocol, which is the beginning of the story with decentralized lending and borrowing. In 2018 as well, Axie Infinity launched its first, and nowadays, I think it's one of the most popular play to earn games. So this was huge for the gaming industry because finally users could not only play on the blockchain, but they could also earn money while playing on the blockchain. By money, I mean cryptocurrency tokens. Also in 2018, which was very important, was launched the first decentralized exchange called Uniswap. So Uniswap is also based on Ethereum network. Later on, the industry started or continued its growth. And from important things around 2020, 2021, metaverse became a huge concept. So by metaverse, what people in the industry understand by metaverse might be a range of different things. But basically for the simplistic understanding, it's anything that the person does digital in terms of, it might be personal finance, it might be gaming, might be VR, might be social interactions, but anything that can be later on tied with a real life. And blockchain put everything on different networks. So you can use tokenization in metaverse as well. So here you can see different stages of the market, because as you know, crypto works in cycles. So here the cycles are much shorter than in traditional finance. And you can see the visual representation from the experimental stage, when just the bunch of people knew about Bitcoin and they tried to use it. Everybody who wanted to get into the industry had to be more or less very technical. Then there was the so-called gig initial stage, when Bitcoin became more widespread, when exchanges for Bitcoin trading emerged. And also the scene opened up to more people who were into profiting from Bitcoin. Then the market formation stage. which was the stage when Bitcoin was going through ups and downs, but new cryptocurrencies were emerging to basically tackle the issues that Bitcoin network was having and trying to perfect the space and bring cryptocurrency to the masses. From 2016 to 2018, there was an explosive growth of cryptocurrencies. And a lot of different protocols in the decentralized world emerged, and people started using protocols more for different purposes, not just trading. Then there was the industrial stage from 2019 to 2021. This was the time when industries and key players in traditional technology space or any consumer industry became interested by the blockchain and started implementing blockchain for making their processes more efficient. And currently, professionals are saying that blockchain industry is in the maturity stage. This is the stage when we have a lot of blockchain projects. If you think about it, there are over 20,000 different cryptocurrencies, which is crazy because 2 years ago, when I was just entering the space, there were just 6,000 cryptocurrencies. So if we think that more or less one project has one cryptocurrency, you can see the scale of the change in the industry.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, looking at the industry, right? And we've seen this grow from the experimental stage, you know, through kind of explosive growth, industrial. And now when we get into the industry maturity, do you think that a lot of the Web2 companies that we see today will be transitioning to Web3, or do you think we'll see an emergence of like new companies that will become leaders in the industry?
I think probably it's going to be both, because what I see now, there are some really interesting projects emerging from the decentralized space, which are trying to tackle issues in healthcare, for example, or in the supply chain. But at the same time, let's call them Web2 giants. So traditional companies as we know and see them now, they're also becoming more and more interested in the blockchain technology. So I see it more as a synergy than the rivalry.
Right. And then would this 2022 to 2025, would that include kind of a mass adoption, or would that come at a later stage?
That's a very interesting topic, because now in the industry, there is a lot of talk about the mass adoption. And I think it was always like that. The way I see the space, it's still, it's not very high barrier to entry, but you need to be really eager to learn to come to the space. So it's not so straightforward. And technologically, there are a lot of different implications and a lot of difficulties for people to start using crypto, for example, as the means of payment for our day-to-day life. Let's say it's quite difficult to facilitate payments for, let's say, coffee with crypto instead of our normal debit or credit cards, because you just need to prepare and kind of like set the ground. So everything has to be ready for the shift. So to be honest, I think it will take longer than the next 3-4 years, but probably in the next decade, it will definitely reach mass adoption. Yeah,
I've heard that 2030 number thrown around quite a bit, but we'll see. True. Everything is changing so fast, and it often depends on what players come into the game and how easily they facilitate it. Right?
For sure.
Wonderful. Okay, please keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries at all. So how does this industry looks from the centralized perspective? So the kind of players you can see on the centralized landscape in crypto now are centralized exchanges, for example, like Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken, blockchain infrastructure providers like Infura or Alchemy, crypto wallets like Ledger and MetaMask. Here it's not fully centralized, but there is a large centralization element. Sorry, I can't hear you well. Can you please tell it once again?
I just muted them. Thank you.
Should I continue?
Yes, please.
Sure. Also, media platforms are mostly centralized in the space now. So from the top platforms, you can see Cointelegraph and CoinDesk, which are updating users about the current state of crypto. You can see crypto boards like CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, where you will see the full list of different tokens, different projects that are around with all the stats for them. Crypto security auditors, like Certic, for example, who are making sure that the blockchains basically are not faulty, are efficient, and can serve their purpose. And I would say from centralized landscape, it's also regulators, which is currently the major regulator is SEC. Blockchain space is not regulated fully, but I think it's moving towards that direction. And if you read the news on crypto more or less every day, you can hear that SEC did this, SEC did that. So some tokens are deemed as security tokens. And basically the whole industry is waiting for more clarity from the regulatory perspective.
We have one question from Sumit, who was just asking if you could kindly repeat a few examples of crypto security auditors.
Sure. So one who's for sure centralized is Certic. Then there's quite a wide range of security auditors, but it's a mix between centralized and decentralized.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would recommend also all of you. This is obviously, it's so vast, the material we're working with, but I encourage all of you to go and also do your own research and kind of just look stuff up and familiarize yourself. Thank you.
For sure. It's very helpful, I think, in general, anywhere in blockchain, whatever topic you're interested in, it's very helpful to go deeper because, as I mentioned before, there's no single space where you will get all the information just because it's humanly impossible to fit it into one platform. So I think the more you learn and the more curious you are, the easier it's going to be for you to become fully immersed in the industry. So from the second side of the barricades, from the decentralized landscape in Web3 industry, I like to divide everything in layers just so it makes kind of a clear flow of information. So layer one will be projects who are building the main blockchain network, and this blockchain network is in charge of on-chain transactions. Layer two is any project that is building something on top of the main blockchain network. So it's either a network or a technology that is going to perfect the main blockchain. So here, the majority of work is done with scalability of the blockchain. So in terms of scalability, what is taken is the number of transactions that the blockchain can process and efficiency. And layer three will be the decentralized apps that are built on blockchain. And the decentralized app is probably what you will see in the blockchain space as the end user, because here you will have the smart contract. So you will have part of the blockchain and you will also have the front end user interface.
And there's a question from Petra, who's asking what layer is Polkadot, for example?
Polkadot is layer one. So any blockchain, I think to make it more simple, the way I try to understand it, any blockchain that creates an ecosystem around it. So the blockchains who are inviting developers to build on top, who are basically partnering and trying to integrate the technology are layer one. Layer two will be anything that's on top of layer one that is making life of developers basically easier. And layer three is anything user-centric.
Thank you.
Sure. So here is an examples for layer one. It will be Bitcoin network, Ethereum, Cardano, Phantom, Polkadot, and others as well. For layer two, for example, it's going to be Polygon, Optimism. For layer three, I think one of the most popular dApps are decentralized exchanges, something like Uniswap or SushiSwap, for example.
Awesome. And where would something like a game come in? Like say, for example, Steppen.
Yeah, that's going to be also a dApp. So this comes to the next slide. There are lots of different types of dApps, just because, as we'll already discussed, the industry is growing massively. So blockchain is finding new applications. So first of all, as the blockchain space was evolving from Bitcoin, from trading, and from everything connected to finance, the first two applications are decentralized exchanges, which are top of the list. Then it's decentralized finance, which can be lending, borrowing, providing liquidity, or any sort of centralized financial operation that you can imagine moved onto the blockchain. Social media is also moving to the blockchain. Play to earn gaming as well is a massive category of dApps now, one of the top used categories. Governance and voting for different protocols, fundraising and advertising, NFT marketplaces, which are becoming more and more popular. Digital identity, it can be anything from storing your medical records to storing your, let's say, passport information, and different applications working on metaverses. So for crypto stakeholders, here I try to give you more perspective into who is involved in the crypto space. So you will find here people who are both involved in building the Web3 space, like projects and developers working on the projects, people who are actively facilitating the development of the space with mainly the investment side or connections and advice side. This would be VCs and accelerators. Also, you have people who are involved in the space, not from the building perspective, but from the perspective of using the protocols, holding the tokens, investing in different tokens, trading, or simply being community members, because essentially to be a community member, you don't have to do anything. You just can stay in different communities, learn as much as you can. And whenever you're ready, move to other stages. And obviously this would be regulators such as SEC, which are getting more and more involved into this industry. So that's more or less it. Thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to stay in touch, and we'll be happy to jump to your questions.
Awesome. Kseniia, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I have a question here from Junad, who says, if an app uses a coin or as tokenomics, is it considered a dApp, or does it have to be 100% on-chain to be a dApp?
What do you mean by this question?
I think, yeah, it says, Junad, if you could type in a little bit more to explain your question. And maybe we'll go on to Matrika and then we can come back. Junad is asking, where's the frontier? Where's that line between being an app and being a dApp? That's the question.
Basically, as a general rule, any app that is built on the blockchain is going to be a dApp. Like, let's say, it's a good question if you can be an app that just has a token. Really good question, but
yeah,
probably not. But I don't have the technical background, so it's difficult to tell with 100% clarity.
Yeah, I think this is also such an emerging market that we're starting to see ways that people are using the technology.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, if we gave the same talk in 5 years, there would be a lot of even additional players in use cases, right? I mean, now we start to see, go ahead.
The way it usually works in the space now, I was just thinking about traditional apps that have the token. Usually they launch the token, but you can not fully claim it for now. So for example, like Sweatcoin, where you walk for earning coins. So you have the token, but you cannot use it now because the company is still in the process of building.
Excellent. And here's a question from Matrika around marketing. And they're wondering, what's the difference between Web3 marketing, and are the tools that are helpful for marketers, or what are the tools that are helpful for marketers to get an edge over other Web3 endeavors?
That's a great question. It's very interesting because it changed even in the last 2 years when I was in crypto. So when I just started working full-time in the blockchain industry, it was completely different. So let's say it was a bit like a baptism by fire. There was not so much emphasis on user experience, not so much emphasis on product design, for example. So it was more like built for core crypto audience. Now when we're going more and more into mass adoption, there is more emphasis on traditional marketing vehicles. But now I see the space in Web3 marketing kind of as a merge between Web2 tactics and Web3 tactics. Like, let's say some things will be very native to Web3. Others will be the same as on Web2 with a certain spin. So I think what changes is the number of stakeholders that you have, the number of different target audience that you can go through. And it also changes quite massively in the psychology of people, because first of all, what you do in marketing in crypto depends on the cycle of the market. So let's say if it's a bull market, you will use one set of tactics. You will use one budget. If it's the bear market, you will shift it just because you will see the shift in audiences of people. Now with the bear market, for example, it became quieter, so there are less speculators, and people are more interested to see the technology, and they're more interested to basically use protocols.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would also like to add, I think when I think of like Web3 marketing, I also, and again, it's kind of gray areas, but I think about DAOs and communities that they create, and how the community creates value to the point where the same members of the community are now going out and inviting their friends and colleagues and others to that community because there's value created there for them.
It's a very valid point, because I think this is where Web2 was taking practices from Web3, because I see now more and more for different brands in Web2 that they're also creating communities, and they're trying to implement different tactics from Web3 to either tokenize what they're doing, or provide rewards for people, or introduce different things like NFTs, for example, with certain utility that will be also creating a community of people around this NFT holders.
And from Oleye, we have a question. If you could speak a little bit more about governance and voting, and kind of where does that fit within the ecosystem?
Yeah. It's a very broad question, because basically this is like the backbone of decentralization. So governance and voting means that you are not having a centralized party that decides everything. It's essentially like voting for voting in politics, let's say. So it's not one person who comes and decides who's going to be the next prime minister or president. It's the collective of all the people of this country. So the same analogy can be used for the project, for example. It's going to be the collective of people who are staking the token and having a certain voting power and voting on different decisions. Decisions can be in basically any industry, from tokenomics to product design, to new features introduced, new markets opened. So anything you want to do with a project is going to be connected with voting. Now, as I mentioned already, there are not too many projects that are at the stage of 100% full decentralization, but there are a lot of projects that are moving to this side slowly but surely.
I would love to dive in a little bit deeper and talk about the incentives of all the different players in the ecosystem, which is really kind of, in my mind, what decentralization is based on, is that it's the incentives that drive good actions within the ecosystem, and really are helping, I think, lead us from an environment of competition to one of collaboration, and kind of understanding where we fit in. just in terms of like whether it's an exchange or an infrastructure provider, a wallet provider, media platforms, auditors, like, can you talk about what are some of the incentives for the different players within the system?
For sure. So I think here in terms of the blockchain space, it's two main groups of people. The ones who are building the industry or fostering the development of the industry, and the people who are coming to the industry as maybe even three groups, people who are coming to the industry as users. And the third group is speculators or community members who are interested purely in the financial incentive through tokens and through the explosive growth of the industry, let's say. So for the builders, obviously there's a famous phrase, we're here for the tech. So people want to change the world, want to change, first of all, it started with a financial system. Because the financial system is one of the layers of our life that stayed the same for many, many years. And nowadays with globalization, we see that it doesn't work so perfectly, that there are lots of gray areas, that we have a lot of people who are unbanked or underbanked. So this is where it all started. Then basically seeing how blockchain helps in finance, people started finding application for the blockchain in other areas of our life. Let's say, for example, if we talk about healthcare, we provide a lot of medical data to different healthcare institutions. We don't have any ownership of this data, and we provide it for free. So using the blockchain and tokenizing everything, you can first of all be in charge of your information. Secondly, you can profit from your information. So basically, what I think is interesting about blockchain is that you can earn in different ways, and you can perfect the society through engaging different chunks of society who are not otherwise having the opportunity to benefit anyhow. So this would be for the builders. For people who are facilitating the growth of the industry, this would be investors and accelerators. That's also more or less the same thing, plus the financial incentive of investing into something that becomes huge and reaping benefits from it. From the user perspective, now I think it's largely the monetary perspective, because majority of projects, if you think about it, are still around decentralized finance. So anywhere where people can earn the percentage or rewards for whatever they're doing. But at the same time, you can think of gaming, for example, or metaverse. So people are just finding different outlets of communicating to each other or different activities that they can do digitally. And the third group will be community members who are there for the sake of, let's say, learning, or token holders who are there for the sake of profiting on the token growth for different projects.
Right, and even entertainment in the form of gaming, right?
Sure, sure.
which is interesting today, that a lot of those traditional, I remember as a child we had video games, right? Mm-hmm. And it was purely for entertainment. But now those areas are now mixing, where not only can I be entertaining myself, but I could also be earning money, right? Or I could be studying and getting paid to learn, right?
Exactly. I think blockchain incentivizes a lot of industries exactly in this way, because now, as we have a lot of information that we consume on a daily basis, so there is a lot of talk about fatigue, especially the digital fatigue. And I think people need some incentive to learn, to do something, to try different things. So blockchain can be the perfect vessel for that.
Yeah, we have a question from Eric, who's asking, what does it take to build a blockchain from scratch?
If sovereign countries' regulatory requirements demands that to obtain compliance licenses. That's a very technical question. As I'm not a builder per se, I can say what I know from the industry, from the projects I was working with. It usually takes a lot because it's a very technical task. I think in the life of any project, it's good to decide straight away whether you want to build your own sovereign blockchain or whether you want to use somebody's technology and build on top of it. So it largely depends on what is the goal that you have in mind and what do you actually want to do with it. And also it depends on the developers you have. So if you have stellar developers, it's going to be, I wouldn't say no time, but it's going to be shorter time than if you're still searching for the team, because now there's a lot of demand for developers in the industry.
Yeah, and I'd love to add, it really depends on what you'll be using your blockchain for and whether you want it to be public or private. So I'll just give you an example, Eric. If I was a coffee seller in the United States, there might be certain, maybe I want to track that coffee from where it was grown, when it was picked, when it was harvested, where it was transported, when it was roasted. I could even include the temperature. I could include anything. If there were spices added to it, and that would all be on the blockchain. So when that coffee arrives at my cafe, I can tell somebody exactly where it came from, when it was picked, who picked it, etc. But for example, I may not want them to know how much I paid for it, right? So that may not be a fully public blockchain. So really, I think it looks at like, what is your model? What information do you want to be able to share, right? If I was doing a voting blockchain, I would want the members to be able to write to that blockchain to say who their vote was, but I wouldn't necessarily want them to be able to read how everyone else voted, right? So I think in building blockchains, there's a lot of different things to think about. And I would recommend also, Eric, to look into Substrate with Polkadot, which is kind of like building blocks for building blockchains. And I can share a couple of links later with you. I know we're getting close to time, but I wanted to ask a question because there's so many people here who are getting involved that have their own wealth of experience and knowledge, perhaps in other industries or more traditional Web2 companies, right? When we think about Web3, like what are the different skill sets that we're going to need to kind of build towards this 2022 to 2025 and even further that you were talking about?
I think, first of all, for me, it feels like, as I'm coming from a traditional tech space previously and traditional consumer industries, for me, the blockchain felt like the startup scene that is taken to kind of the extreme because everything is super fast. You need to react quickly to changing information, changing landscape. You have new projects popping up all the time, trends are changing. So I think you need to be very agile in the maximal sense of this word. You need to process a lot of information and you need to have this ability to kind of clean out the information that you need to keep and the information that you don't need now. I think you need to be very curious also because there is a lot happening in the space. And starting anything, obviously you cannot know everything that's happening in not just in blockchain, but in any industry in general. But here I think you need kind of a broader skill set than if you're doing something in Web2. Also, what I feel for Web3, I think different parts of the project work are very much intertwined. Like, let's say in terms of marketing, for example, if you're working in a traditional space, you will have different marketers for different channels. You will have product marketers, brand marketers. Here, as it's a startup culture, it's kind of, you need to be a one-stop shop solution for in a lot of use cases. Depends also largely on what you're planning to do. If you're a developer, you need to have one skill set. I think you need to choose the projects that you would like to work with and learn the languages for them. Because there are many projects that work on particular languages and they're very much in demand now. If you want to be in the marketing space or in any user-centric space, I think it's good to have channel knowledge, and also it's good to have to be a good generalist. So you just you're able to have an overview of what's happening. You are able to segment the information and understand what has to be useful now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kseniia. We're almost done, but I just wanted to do the last question. And this is one that has probably been talked about before, but it's always good to repeat. Somebody's just asking if you could talk about the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 and what the benefits are.
Yeah, for sure. So Web3 is used kind of like an umbrella term now, and I think it became extremely popular maybe only this year, because now everything that's connected to blockchain and crypto space is kind of called Web3. But in general, if you think about the progression, there was Web 1, which was read-only. So it's websites where you could read the information, and it basically looked something like I don't know, like a schedule, for example. Web 2 is where you read and write. So think about the blogs, think about different platforms that allowed social media. So this is the first interaction in the digital space. And Web 3 is where you not only read and write, but you also own. So here comes the huge importance of the concept of tokenization, of the community, of owning your own information, of having some exclusive rights or exclusive access to some information. So basically, the main concept is about the ownership.
Excellent. Kseniia, thank you so much. We're so appreciative for you taking time.
Thanks for inviting, and the questions were really great.
I agree. We have an incredible audience. There's still 98 people here till the end, plus all of those on YouTube. And of course, the recordings will be available for those who are in time zones or work in a way that they couldn't. Before we go, I want to, and thank you again. And I want to introduce everyone here at Unit Masters to Waleska, who is with our conference team and would like to speak to you all a little bit. But Kseniia, you could either stay or sign off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Once again, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I would like to introduce everyone to Waleska.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Zach? Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Kseniia, for that insightful talk. It was very good, and all the questions were amazing. So I'm Waleska Serpa. I'm from the Unit Conference team, and I'm here to get you excited to work with us and partner with us to bring Unit conferences and Unit Network to your communities. So basically at Unit conferences, our main goal is to make sure that Unit Network is present in all big and small events around the world. And the way we do that is by partnering up with key people in different cities. So we're looking to grow the number of partners we already have. And so this is why I'm here with you, because I would like you to be a part of our conference team as well. So think about hosting maybe small events or big gatherings. We have all the support that you need in order to succeed at this endeavor. And this will also help you grow into establishing your presence into the blockchain and Web3 community. So I don't want you to think that you have to be an expert on blockchain. I myself am not an expert. Okay, so I don't know everything about Web3, and sometimes I don't even understand like all of the technology of Unit, but I do believe in the project, and I know what we're doing is great and is going to change the world, and this is why I'm working for Unit conferences. So I started back in April. I did the World Caracas Forum, and here I am working with the core team now for a conference team. So this is also a path that you could take if this is something that you would like. Okay, so what is the type of support that we are providing? We can get you a small budget for you to finance this event. We can also get you with graphic designs, flyers, and marketing so that you can promote the event. And well, the overall general support for you to be successful at this. And in return, we're only asking you for brand awareness and signups to the platform, to the Unit platform. And Well, like I said, you don't need to know everything about blockchain, about Web3, or even about Unit. We can get you all of that sorted out so that you can start. The only thing that you need to have is access to a community. It doesn't even have to be your own community. If you have access to somebody who has a community, then you can create this event. So either for a city, for example, we're now partnering up with people in Nigeria, in Bogota, in Buenos Aires, in Caracas, Amsterdam, Lisbon, Barcelona. We're hosting events there in the next couple of weeks. But you can also be from an industry, for example, art, hotel, movie. Okay, so if you have an idea for a city or an industry, please reach out. I'm gonna leave here in the chat a survey that you can fill in, and so that we can reach out to you and then start working on making you a partner of Unit Conference. And well, you can reach out to me. I'm in every chat for Unit Network. So my name is Valeska Serpa. I don't know why it's not on the Zoom, but I will just leave it here. So if you want to reach out to me on Telegram, this is my Telegram handle, and I will be welcome you with open arms, because we're looking for all of you to be a part of Unit conferences. So I don't know, any questions, or Zach?
Yeah,
That's it
first
from
of
my
all,
side. Thank you so
I
much.
just wanted to say thank you so much. If you have questions right now, please just type them in the chat room and I'll bring them up. But I want to say that, like, I know a lot of you probably have study groups. If you're already doing a study group and you meet with 10 people or 5 people, it's a great opportunity to say, hey, let's get together and do an in-person event. And each of you can invite 1 or 2 more friends to learn about what Unit Masters is, to learn about Web3, different opportunities. And as Waleska said, the conference team will help you to create that event, right? As you already know, Unit Network is about community as well as tokenization. And we really believe that every token that's created, the strength of it will depend on the strength of the community. And that means people, right? It means you and us and all the people that we know kind of coming together around a shared value and a shared interest, right? And understanding that together we're the ones who actually create the value, and then we're the ones who share and distribute that value. So it could be today, it could be in 2 weeks or 2 months that you're like, you know what, I think I'm ready to host an event. Then that's the right time to reach out. Some of you today might be like, oh my God, I needed this last week. So then reach out to Valeska right now. The conference team is truly amazing. And there's a question here from Hanif. Says, can we also get support to showcase Unit Network in big blockchain and Web3 conferences?
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're and again, I think one of the big initiatives is just we understand that one of the biggest barriers to Web3 is just education. And once people have access to that education, and we try to do it in a manner that's free and supportive, there's going to be a greater adoption. And we really see the benefit of greater transparency, greater fairness, a more equitable distribution of value in society as a way to lift everyone, so that, we wake up in the morning and say, what's my purpose in life? What am I passionate about? How do I want to give back or provide service to my family, my community, my country, or the world, right? Cool. It looks like one other one. It says, can we also take initiative for virtual events as well, from Sumit?
Yes, definitely. We have different types of events. So small gatherings, maybe like a meetup. We can do maybe full day online events. We call them world forums. And we can do other types of maybe co-sponsoring or partnership, collaborating. Maybe we can send you to a big event somewhere where you can be like our ambassador. So we have different programs to work out depending on what you need and what you want to do with us.
Wonderful. And I will say that later in Unit Masters, we also have city and industry groups. And if you stick with us for a few more weeks, we'll be inviting all of you to join one of those and potentially be a Unit ambassador, where you really get to welcome people, engage, and share information and opportunities. But that'll be coming in probably next week or the week after. Wonderful. Cool. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you to all of the Unit Masters team that has been here with us today. I see Kingsley on. I'm sure I saw Yip joining today. And I'm sure there's a bunch of others, but I just want to thank you all and say, have a great weekend. And check in tomorrow. We're going to have a demo session. So also another chance to learn and grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.